Welcome to Career and Leadership Real Talk, the no-nonsense guide for ambitious managers who want to have more impact and progress their career. I'm Pamela Langan, a job search coach and expert CV writer specialising in helping frustrated professionals land the jobs and pay rises they know they deserve.
And I'm Jackie Jagger, a leadership and mindset coach specialising in helping newly promoted and new to role leaders to avoid the dickhead trap and lead with confidence. Between us, we've helped hundreds of leaders and managers to find new roles, take ownership of their careers, and handle the challenges that job searches and leadership responsibility inevitably bring. And now we're joining forces to share with you what we know has worked for our clients. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode. We are talking today about the things that you need to know if you are in job search mode this September. It's been a while since we've done a new job search episode, so we're going to be mining all of Pam's knowledge and understanding from her client work and really thinking about if you're in the market for a new role, how do you need to be showing up to make sure that you maximise the chances? So Pam, September's always an interesting month in the jobs market, isn't it? Because you see more activity in terms of roles being advertised as companies get back in the swing of it after summer break. But you also see more candidates who either have spent their summer break realising they don't love their job anymore, or who maybe have taken a break from job search and are coming back full force.
Yeah, I think September's always that real reset month, isn't it? I think we see it in September and we see it again in January. And it's a really interesting time because it's also a time in September when companies are thinking about what they need to deliver for the final quarter of the year as well. So it's a super important time from a recruitment perspective, but also from a job market perspective.
And what do you see from a client perspective that people need to keep front of mind? What types of things do they need to be aware of and think about as they're approaching that job search?
So there's probably 5 key areas to really think about and to almost really be honest with yourself about as well, because I think a lot of people will create a CV, they might also create a cover letter, they might update LinkedIn, and they maybe will use AI. They will have a quick read through. They'll think, oh yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like a better version of me is what we're getting a lot with AI. I couldn't write it like that, but then ultimately it doesn't sound like you. So I think that is going to be the first thing. Your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn, they need to sound like you. So if you are using AI to generate these things, that's fine because it's so hard to start with a blank page. But if you are using AI, then you just need to be really aware of the language, the tone of how it's written, and you need to be really honest with yourself. And you need to ask yourself, does this sound like me? And maybe even ask someone else to read it and say, is this how I talk? Is this how I come across? What does it sound like? And usually people will give you that information and say, oh, that sounds like a really nice version of you, or oh, that sounds a little bit too posh for you, or there'll be something that people will say where you can take that feedback and go, okay, do I need to tone it down? Do I need to think about the type of language that I use? Because I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is making those documents and LinkedIn profiles not sound like them. So when they meet the people in real life, it can cause an element of disappointment because if they think they're getting this person, they've read the words on the page, on the screen, and it's, wow, this person sounds like an ideal fit. And then the person turns up in real life, that's not how they talk. It's not really them. It can be quite disappointing and it can create all kinds of judgmental thoughts from that employer. So the best thing you can do is to sound like yourself. And when everything joins up, that's when you've got more chances of getting the offer.
I think that's so key because a lot of the reason that people are driven or suggested to use AI tools is things like helping you get through applicant tracking systems, helping you to be top of the pile. And I think it can feel like, oh, it's a bit of a dark art situation. And actually, this is designed to get me through. And if you've not been getting the results you want, it can be really tempting to do that. And like you say, then to suddenly be like, oh, this sounds amazing. So that is why. But there's a real trust element for me. Whenever I was recruiting and reviewing CVs, you form an impression of somebody. And if then when you have a conversation with them, that isn't how they come across. To me, a CV is almost like it's Barocca you. It's you at your best. It's you on a really good day. So if there isn't that same impression as a recruiter when I was doing initial screening calls, then there's that real trust thing of actually everything in your CV then becomes a question of trust, because if it doesn't seem aligned with the impression, then it becomes are you overselling yourself? Have you really done these things? And it damages the relationship before it's even had chance to be formed, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's a really good point that because trust in that process is so key because essentially in that recruitment process, you haven't got that long to get to know somebody. So you need to feel that instant trust. And I think when the information that you provide aligns with who you are and how you come across, that trust can be built almost instantly. And it's, yes, this is the person we thought was going to turn up, and you can start building that rapport with someone. And I think it makes it easier. And I think just on the point with the applicant tracking systems as well, like people get so hung up on those, don't they? Because they think this robot, this applicant tracking system is going to read my CV, is going to judge me, is going to make a decision, is going to either accept me or reject me. And it's actually not true. So the applicant tracking systems are purely databases that they do have some software that sit within them that can allocate different CVs into different categories and things like that. And obviously that's set up by the human that implement those keywords and all the rest of it. But ultimately, it's a database and it's the human on the other side that is filtering those out. So even if you get a rejection straight away, 9 times out of 10, that is a human that has reviewed it and rejected it. Or that's because your CV isn't optimized in the right way. It's landed in one of the categories and they've just automatically rejected. So you don't know what is sitting on the other side, but if you're using AI to bypass the applicant tracking system, it's not always going to work for you. And it's that human on the other side, isn't it, that's reading it, that is actually going to make the call on whether we interview you or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said we've got five. So what's our second thing then for those that are in job search mode to really keep front of mind?
So the second thing is going to be about demonstrating what you can bring or the impact that you can make. And this is really key because this is a lot of the time what is left out of CVs, because sometimes CVs can come across really soulless and it's just a collection of bullet points. People have copied and pasted them from job descriptions. They've created some kinds of professional profile that sounds uber professional, but doesn't really tell us anything about them or what they can bring or the impact that they can make. When you are creating that CV document or when you're creating the cover letter, it's really important to go through and ask yourself before you even start updating those documents, what does this organization really need to see and hear from me? What is going to be the most important thing for them? And it's not about then copying and pasting the job description to try and beat the applicant tracking system. It's about going, right, okay, where can I add value? How can I demonstrate the impact that I can make for this organization? And you might need to do a bit of research. Like you might not get it all from the job description. You might need to look at the company and where they operate and all of that kind of stuff to get a feel for what is going on for them right now. And based on the skills that you bring, where can you make the most impact? And I think we get so caught up in tailoring the CV to the job description that we forget to demonstrate the value and the impact that we can bring. And ultimately, when someone reads it, they don't just want a copy and paste version of their job description. They want to read it and go, wow, this person could add value. They could increase our profits. They could reduce our costs. Like this person is somebody we need to speak to. And that is the point that you want to get to.
And when a recruiter is sitting looking at a pile of applications, they want to mine for gold. They want to be able to put a really strong CV in front of a hiring manager. And so that is such a simple way when I review CVs, I'm just thinking about a client that I reviewed their CV. So they're looking at a promotion and moving to the next level. And that was one of the things that I pointed out in the CV review was you've got lots of things here that you've done, that you've listed, and that's great. But so what? So what is that going to do for the next organization? And how is that positioning you as able to have the impact at the next level, which is what you're aiming for and aspiring to? And when they went away and did some work on the CV and we looked at it again, the difference was night and day, just in terms of making those bullet points a little bit longer, getting rid of some of the bullet points, but really emphasizing exactly that bit of what can you bring, how can you demonstrate impact. And if that's something that you know that you need to do, but you maybe aren't sure how to go about it, we've got a recent episode on how to demonstrate your impact at work. And that picks out 4 different areas of profit, pace. So, how can you show that you've contributed to increasing profit? How can you show that you've increased pace? How can you show that you've increased quality? How can you show what you've delivered in terms of people and how you've led? So go listen to that episode for some more in-depth guidance if that's one that you need. So what's our third point then for people to be bearing in mind?
So the third point, and this leads on quite nicely actually, because the third one is don't try to be great at everything, or don't try to show that you're great at everything. So that links quite nicely back to your point there of too many bullet points and having everything that you've ever done on that CV, because it's, you've done that and that's great and you've lived through that experience, but that employer doesn't need to know everything. They don't need to know everything that you can do, everything that you think you're great at. They just need to know about the things that are relevant to them, the things that are going to help move their business forward. And I think that is the key thing. And sometimes people will make up for lacking a certain amount of skills. So if they think I only hit 60-70% of what they're looking for, but I've got all of these other great things that, that I can share. So what they do then is they ram all of those things into the CV. And then next minute, you've just got this CV that it's, okay, what does this person do? Where do they really add value? It's not really clear. So then that CV ends up on the no pile, and that person's left thinking, I might not have had everything and other stuff that filled the gap. So I think it's about looking at what the organization needs and demonstrating what you've got. And if you've got some gaps, fine, because the key thing is, what have you got that you can make immediate impact with? And that is going to be what gets you the interview, rather than all of the other fluffy bits that you add in just because you're trying to plug those gaps.
And I'm taken back as you're describing that to an outplacement workshop that we ran with the group of people that were at risk of redundancy. And I remember that question coming up of somebody saying, but I want to show that I can do all these things. And my feedback then, which is probably quite brutal, was, as a recruiter, I don't care if you can do 10 other things. I want the hit rate that mentally every piece that I'm reading is telling me you can do something that I've been asked to find. So it's really adjusting your mindset as a candidate to thinking about the people that get to make the decisions about whether you're in front of a hiring manager, or a hiring manager who gets to make the decision about whether to bring you in for interview. What they want is that every single point on your CV is making them believe you are right for this role. And if there are things that are right for another role but have not been asked for, then that's a distraction. And what that's giving is vibes of you're more general, you're maybe not a specialist in these things, you're trying to again, it can feel like people are trying to overcompensate and say that, oh, look at me, I'm amazing at everything. And again, that trust can be broken by that view of, are you though? Really? Are you really as good at all these different things as you say you are? So yeah, I think that's such a crucial point. And again, when I was recruiting, it was exactly what I wanted, was just someone who made it easy for me to see how many of these boxes have they ticked. And you don't need to tick every single box, do you, on a job description?
No, definitely not. I've seen people get offered a role and they can probably only do 50 to 60% of what is needed, but the 50 to 60% are the things that are most vital for that organization. And in their view, they can train on the other stuff. You just need to go forward with what you've got, what you do really well, where you add value, where you can deliver impact, and let them make the decision on whether there's gaps, whether if it's too much of a gap, let them make the decision, because 9 times out of 10, if you've got most of what they want or some of the key things that they're looking for, then they're going to want to speak to you anyway. And I think that kind of leads us on to 4 quite nicely, because number 4 is speaking their language. And I think that is really key as well, and something that people often forget, to really think about how that organization comes across, what kind of culture have they got, look at their branding, look at everything that you can possibly find about that organization to get a feel for who they are. Even look at some of their people on LinkedIn. What are they posting? What are they saying about the organization? How are they speaking on there? And especially the more senior leaders, because that is obviously something, a lot of their posts will be generated by the marketing team. So you can get a real feel for the message they want to get out there and how they want to come across. And then you can emulate that. You can also speak to them in the same language, in the same way. And that will help them to see how you align with their organization.
And I think it's really important to say with this, we're not suggesting that you just try and completely change your personality to fit in with an organization where you don't feel like you'd fit. This is about just reading the cues of, are they pacey? Are they informal? Are they very formal? And just dialing up the elements that are the things that they're going to be looking for, so that they feel that sense of matching, of just allowing them really to imagine you in the role. So I think this is so key, particularly once you get to interview stage and you're sitting with a hiring manager, is to just have that feel, isn't it, of what kind of person, which elements of me do I need to bring to the table that is going to match with what they're looking for.
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? And something that people forget because they're so busy trying to tailor the CV to the job description, that they forget those key bits, and they forget to think about, how do I need to come across in order to show that I align with this organization? And there's a little bit of psychology in there as well, but it all helps get you selected for interviews. And then I suppose that the final thing is around showing employers that you can deliver what they need right now. And it's a little bit different from the impact that you can deliver. And it's more about reading between the lines on the job description. So when you're doing your research to understand the company, to understand where they operate and how they operate, you can get a real feel for that marketplace and some of the key skills that might be really essential for them to move forward, for you to help them drive the business forward, for you to increase profitability, reduce costs, like whatever it is that is the main objective of the role that you're applying for. You can do a little bit of research and read between the lines of that job description. And that is also key information that you can include in the CV, because when that human being reads the CV, they go, oh my goodness, this is exactly what we need. And what people need to remember, or actually sometimes need to know, is that not everyone's great at writing job descriptions. So you can't guarantee that they've included everything that they need, or that it's even been written by them. It could just be one that HR have got on file and they've just used it. So by doing a little bit of research and thinking about what will they need right now in this marketplace for this particular role within this type of organization, like what will they really need right now? And you can then articulate that within your CV. You can even put it in cover letters. You can even put it in on your LinkedIn profile. You know, you can do all of those things, and that is going to help you be seen, because you're going to align better and they're going to see real value in you as a person.
This is such a crucial element. And if I go back again to when I was recruiting, one of the things that I would always do is ask questions of the hiring manager when I was taking a brief around, What kind of character does this person need to be? What are the things that they need to have an understanding of? What are the elements that are going to make you say, yes, this is the right kind of person? So this is things that often aren't on the job description because they're not a particular skill set. But for example, if you're applying to businesses that are on a growth trajectory and you know that they're ambitious for further growth, and you've got a track record of working in fast growing organizations, that should be there front and center, because that's again going to show that you have some of that experience and that you're familiar with the types of challenges and opportunities that come in that environment. If you've been in an environment where you have been really cost conscious or incredibly process focused and able to create efficiencies, and you're applying to organizations that would value that, then they need to know that and they need to see that for you. Those are things that those hiring managers will have unsaid in their mind that will form part of the filter for their decision making.
Yeah. And that is really key, because when someone is making a decision, you don't know what they need in order to make their decision. But if you are thinking about what the business needs, where you can add value, then that is going to make a huge difference to their decision making.
And what are you seeing in terms of the general stuff that your clients are expected to be able to deliver? What are the things that employers really want now, with the way that the economy is, with the way that the market generally is?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think one of the key things that I'm seeing is that employers want to see that people can handle uncertainty, that they can be flexible, that they can work independently. So delivering in uncertainty is a huge one at the moment. And it's not something that you just write on your CV, like I can deliver in uncertainty or I can deliver in uncertain situations. Like, that isn't something that you would necessarily see on a CV, but you can talk about how, the companies that you've worked for, what you have delivered, how you've done that, even through COVID times and all of the different things, and Brexit and all of the things that have had a major impact on the economy and on businesses. You can talk about your role within them and how you've delivered, what you delivered, how you overcome those uncertain situations, and also demonstrating that you can work without somebody needing to hold your hand through it, because at the moment teams are being cut, things are getting leaner generally across the board, and we're seeing more redundancies because companies are making their teams leaner. So when you go into an organization, they want you to be able to get on with it. They haven't got additional resource to handhold you through the process. They also need to see that from your CV within that recruitment process, and thinking about the business reality as well, and understanding the commercial reality. At the moment, the majority of budgets are really tight. So every single person that they employ needs to justify their costs. So if you can show them how you could potentially achieve a return on investment for your salary, that is going to make you a no-brainer hire. That is going to really help them to go, we need this person on board. So I think if you can show that real commercial awareness, if you can show that that you understand the budgets are tight, but this is where you add value and this is what you can bring, that is going to make you stand out from everyone, because nobody's going to be thinking about that. Everybody is just going to be thinking about how they align to the job description and giving perfect star answers, because that's what everyone thinks that you should do in an interview and things like that. Whereas if you can just like almost up level a little bit and just be like, this is what I can bring, this is what I understand about your organization, this is what I've done before, this is me, you're going to be head and shoulders above everyone else.
That being able to operate without hand holding, that's such an interesting one, because with the work that I do, when people are in their first 90 days, there's often a sense of people feeling like maybe holding back, and should I be getting involved in this? How should I push myself forward? And yet so often it's exactly that. It's people want people that are going to go find things out. They want people that are going to launch their own career within that organization, that are going to create an internal network quickly, that are going to put the foundations in place that will allow them to get stuff done. So that hand-holding one is so crucial. So As we wrap up then, is there any final advice that you would give or any kind of key takeaway that you would give for people who are in this situation?
I think that the key thing is that at the moment, employers want somebody that's reliable, commercially aware, somebody who's a problem solver, and someone who can contribute straight away without requiring lots and lots of support or creating additional stress for already overstretched teams. So if you can be that person, if you can demonstrate that is, what you can come in and deliver, then that is going to make you a more desirable candidate. And I think if you're looking at different roles and you're thinking, I probably can't do that, then it's about rethinking the application and asking yourself, is this actually right for me? And there's always the opportunity to put an application in to see if they're happy to bridge the gaps for you. But ultimately, it's about making sure that you're applying at the right level for the right type of roles where you can add value, where you can make an impact, and that will make all of the difference.
And if you're listening to this feeling like, yep, okay, that sounds like a lot, and you're looking for some support, then Pam's Job Search Accelerator might be ideal for you. It's a real opportunity to work closely with Pam to get the understanding of how you can stand out in your job search and land that offer as quickly as possible. So if that's something that you need some support with, then do drop her a message. As ever, please do share this episode with anyone that you think it might be useful for, so anyone who is in job search mode. And if there are topics that you would like us to cover, then do let us know. We always love to create them in response to the things that we know our listeners are experiencing. And thank you for listening, and we'll be catching you next time. Exciting news from us. If you're an ambitious leader or manager earning 50k or more and you're ready to take your career to the next level, we have an opportunity for you. Introducing Catalyst Career Club, your secret weapon for unlocking career success. As a member, you'll get access to monthly live training sessions, exclusive job opportunities, and the ability to get personalised advice from us on your toughest career challenges.
We've helped thousands of driven leaders like you secure significant pay rises, land dream roles, and thrive in their careers. And now we want to support you in achieving your most ambitious career goals too. Membership is just $6.99 per month with no contract or tie-in. And as a special bonus for being our podcast listeners, you can use the code podcast at checkout to get your first month for just £1. Head over to pamelalangan.com/Catalyst Career Club to sign up now, and we'll see you inside.